Section 37 of Journal of the Reverend Francis Asbury, Volume 2. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Recording by Brian Keenan. Saturday, 16. I employed myself as much as my health would admit in reading the Bible and writing such observations thereon as were suggested to my mind. Sunday, 17. I had to keep house. Oh, dumb day! I am better, yet it is not safe for me to go out such very cold weather. I read the Word of God for my comfort and preached. Monday, 18. Very little done. I wrote to Dr. Coke advising against the British brethren going to law with the contentious party about their houses. Tuesday, 19. I am in a more comfortable state of body and mind, for which I feel thankful. I am taking the bark. Wednesday, 20. I felt much amended by the bark and rest. It appears to have been the Mount Moriah where Abraham essayed to offer up his Isaac, on which the temple of God was built upwards of 800 years thereafter, and before the offering of Christ, nearly or upon the same spot 872. The types and prophecies are not small arguments for the truth of the Scriptures, for foreknowledge doth not belong to man. He cannot tell, only by probable conjectures, anything that will befall himself, unless revealed by the spirit of prophecy. The prophecy made by the man of God, 1 Kings 13, fulfilled by Josiah, 2 Kings 23. Between the prophecy and fulfillment, a probable space of time of about 350 years, completely accomplished in every punctilio, and the prophet's tomb and sleeping ashes taken notice of, the prophet's memory kept, who died a witness to what he said, to seal the truth, and his sleeping bones lying there on the spot. What man, untaught by God, who knoweth all things, could come and foretell such events which should so surely come to pass, without being taught and sent of God? Thursday, 21. Perhaps we may call this one of the coldest days of this winter. I slept under 2 double-milled blankets, beside coverlids and sheets, but could not keep warm. This is the 5th season of cold weather we have had in Virginia since the 1st of November. We have had snow, but this is gone in a day. This accepted, it is cold enough for the north. Strange life for me, to sit and burn myself by the fire, and to be nursed. I feel a small return of health. I have been reading David's Psalms in Hebrew, and the book of Genesis in the English Bible. I could not but admire the provision made for the heathen nations, civil and barbarous, by Abraham's second marriage, and by Ishmael and Esau's posterity. This attended to according to their names, as traced in the universal history, we should not wondering ask, where did this or that nation of people come from, either Indians or Africans? I cannot preach now, only to the family, and when a stranger cometh in. Friday, 22. I rose in the morning, in some fear lest I had or should say too much on slavery. I made choice of a verse, 1 Kings 22:16. And the king said unto him, How many times shall I adjure thee, that thou tell me nothing but that which is true in the name of the Lord, or Jehovah? I have found relief by taking barks, in strength, in feeling, in breath, and in my breast, and have a hope of being raised up once more. Saturday, 23. Extremely cold. I am closely confined in my room, but could neither read nor write. Sunday, 24. It is exceedingly cold still. The pain in my breast is returned. I fear it is immovably fixed more or less until death. Lord, thy will be done. Wearisome days are appointed for me. Brother Drumgold came in the evening of Christmas Day. I am cheered with company, and with Christ also. I feel as if the coming year would be marked with displays of divine power upon the souls of men to whoever may live to see it. Tuesday, 26. We had open weather and rain. I am so much better in health that confinement is as trying to me as hard labor. I hope, if it pleaseth my God, I shall have health to be of some service to mankind yet. Ah, what is life, and all this dull round, but for God and souls? Wednesday, 27. A falling of snow, very cold. I have taken the bark. This is the 9th day, and I am strengthened. But the wine in the smallest portions makes me feverish, and it is astringent. I feel need of great patience, prayer, and faith. Thursday, 28. We had hard frost and snow. I am thankful it is rest time with the poor blacks, or many might be frozen to death. Ungrateful man that I am, how am I favored above millions? Friday, 29. Extremely cold. Mrs. Selby desired to see me, bad riding as it was, through the snow and ice. I am mending. I prayed for health, and had faith to believe I should recover. I thought if God would spare me, I was willing to labor and suffer out my days. But the thought of being useless is most distressing to an active, benevolent mind. Saturday, 30. I felt weakness of body and dejection of mind, and sometimes I am brought to think of requesting, as Elijah and Jonah did, that I may die. I cannot pray in the family without injury. Wherefore should I request to live? O my God, thy will be done in all things. Mine in nothing, but as it pleaseth thee. Sunday, 31. We had a meeting at my lodging. Monday, January 1, 1798. Several local brethren were present. Drumgold, Lane, Moore, Smith, and Phillips. The brethren were lively in religion. I am now taking an extraordinary diet. Drink made of 1 quart of hard cider, 100 nails, a handful of black snake root, 1 handful of fennel seed, and 1 handful of wormwood, boiled from a quart to a pint, taking 1 wineglass full every morning for 9 or 10 days, using no butter or milk or meat. It will make the stomach very sick, and in a few days purge the patient well. I was better in my feelings than I have been since I have been taken ill. But I must flee conversation, grief, and care, with deep and close thinking and composition. I made a small meditation on being free from the ceremonial law. Polygamy, slavery, and such like were never commanded under this dispensation, but only tolerated, and accompanied by strict injunctions to prevent men from running to greater lengths in these practices, as may be seen in Exodus 21, Leviticus 25, Deuteronomy 24. Polygamy was allowed to prevent general whoredom. Servitude was regulated to prevent slavery and oppression, death, and loss of limbs. If any had asked the Lord on the subject of slavery, as on polygamy, he must have said, Moses, as a man, suffered this, a less evil, to prevent a greater. But it was not so from the beginning of the creation. It is the fall which hath done this, not a holy God. It is man's work, of 2 evils to choose the least. But God is not tempted of us to evil, neither tempteth he any man. Christians, of 2 evils should not choose or use either, if they would be like God. Tuesday, 2. Now I am brought to the 2nd day of the new year. The last hath been a year of great affliction. I may have traveled about 3,000 miles, and have been confined with affliction and weakness 6 months, adding the single days I have stopped, as well as weeks. In April last, I had very little expectation of living until this day. I am now under the exercise to desire life, that I may see the connection better organized, and be more personally useful. Wednesday, 3. This is a cloudy day. It is probably snowing north or west. I have a better appetite for food. My mind is greatly agitated at times, but patience shall have its perfect work. I pray, and sometimes I wind and pick a little cotton, and read and write about 1 hour in the day. But Christ is all. I cannot be inactive. The hardest work I have to do is to do nothing. Thursday, 4. A proper day for rain. Last evening I had a very high fever, but I am as usual today. I read my Bible and selected those texts which struck my mind, that if ever I should preach again I may use. Joseph said, "I fear God." Nehemiah said, he could not oppress the people as other governors had done, because of the fear of God. Fear of God, in seekers, in believers, and in those who are sanctified, and the motives to the fear of God. First, he is holy. Secondly, he is wise. Thirdly, he is just. Fourthly, he is powerful. If holy, he hath no sin. If wise, he knoweth when we sin. If he is just, he must punish sin, and he hath power to punish it. A man may be wise, but not all wise. A man may be just, but not infinite in justice. Thus man may be holy, but not holy as God. Man may be wanting in wisdom, in power, in holiness, and in justice. In some cases it may not be man's duty to punish, nor in his power. Not so with Jehovah. Who will not fear him according to his attributes, and according to his word of threatened vengeance? Friday, 5. The rain is over, the clouds scattered and gone, and nature smileth again. I only mourn the oppression I cannot remove. Saturday, 6. We have open and pleasant weather. It may be that many have overlooked the prophecies of Jacob in Genesis 49. We may look for the fulfillment nearly 1400 years after, in the coming of Christ, and about 1000 years after we shall see in Jeremiah and Daniel what Jacob further referred to. It appears that it was the wish of Jacob that his youngest but one, Joseph, should have the birthright, which Reuben, his firstborn, had lost by his unnatural incest in defiling his father's bed. Simeon and Levi. We cannot tell whether they had a blessing or a curse for their zeal against folly in Israel. They punished whoredom with cruel murder, and yet we see how Levi's zeal wrought in the case of Cosby, and the Lord confirmed the priesthood by special grant to him. Joseph's prophecy concerning the Israelites' exodus from Egypt was not fulfilled for upwards of 300 years thereafter. It seemeth that Jacob wished, but Jehovah willed not, that Joseph, and not Judah, should be the ruler, and from him should come the shepherd, the stone of Israel, the promised Messiah. See this 1 Chronicles 5. Sabbath 7. My mind is serene and happy. I was comforted in seeing one of the traveling preachers. The physic I have been taking operateth well. Oh, that I may not flatter or elate myself. I can only promise to be more faithful if I have more grace. Monday, 8. I wrote a long letter to John Dickens upon the manner of expediting his books to the distant parts, viz., the journals, sermons, saints' rests, patterns, hymn books, and that the magazine should be our grand circulating medium. Only let us have more American Lives and Letters. Tuesday, 9. The weather is temperate. My mind is much pained. Oh, to be dependent on slaveholders is in part to be a slave, and I was freeborn. I am brought to conclude that slavery will exist in Virginia perhaps for ages. There is not a sufficient sense of religion nor of liberty to destroy it. Methodists, Baptists, Presbyterians, in the highest flights of rapturous piety, still maintain and defend it. I judge in after ages it will be so that poor men and free men will not live among slaveholders, but will go to new lands. They only who are concerned in and dependent on them will stay in Old Virginia. Wednesday 10. I have some peace and some pain of heart. Thursday 11. My mind is exceedingly agitated on my peculiar situation. I feel each day like a day or a year to me, as it is well or ill employed. Ebenezer Academy is under poor regulations. And what is more than all, some gentlemen of Brunswick County had the confidence and want of propriety to wish to wrest it wholly out of our hands, after we had collected so much money to build it. Friday 12. My mind still in pain. I read a chapter each day, and take down those verses that appear to me the most select, and which I have never used before in preaching. They may be of use if ever I should serve the sanctuary again. I have read Kempis and Young. Saturday 13. I finished 3 feeble letters to Nelson Reed, Henry Willis, and John Harper. I cannot read or write long together. I wind brooches of cotton for diversion and recreation. I will not be idle. The class met at my lodging, and I ventured to give a small exhortation and a prayer. Sunday 14. I am still confined. I must try emetic tartar, kill or cure. There is preaching at the chapel, a mile and a half distant, but the weather is such that I cannot go with safety. The inveteracy of my fever was such that on Monday 15 I was fully resolved to take 3 grains of tartar emetic, which operated powerfully and brought off a proper portion of bile. In this I hope for a cure. I must commend the old practice after all. No antibilious pill will answer as well in my case and many others. Tuesday 16. I read a letter and wrote a letter. Wednesday 17. I am weak in body, but some better. I read, wrote, and wrought in winding cotton, as I could not be idle and wholly inactive. Thursday 18. I went from the place where I had stayed 6 weeks, and had received every mark of affection, to Brother Drumgold's, 10 miles. I felt at home here also. Friday 19. My fever was light last night, but this day I am uncomfortable. Saturday 20. Very unwell. I am strangely brought down. Lord, let me suffer with patience. Thy will be done. I could not do anything at my books, but that I might not be wholly idle, I wound cotton brooches among the children. Sunday 21. I sat at home reading a little. Monday I am better. My fever is greatly broken. I can only write and meditate about an hour in a day. I must have some exercise, if it is only women's work. Tuesday 23. We had news from the Assembly that the American ambassadors were rejected at Paris. A report prevails that the French were about to invade England with 150,000 men. The British can raise 200,000 militia and 200,000 regulars. There may yet be most desperate times, worse than in Julius Caesar's day. My mind is in peace. We have winterly weather, more snow after much rain this day. Thank God I have where to lay my head, a little reading and winding of cotton that I may not be quite idle. Wednesday 24. Nothing of moment except a few thoughts for Ebenezer School. Thursday 25. I employed myself in winding cotton. I cannot think long, read, or write. Rebecca Drumgold reads for me out of Watts, Aline, and Baxter's works. I am much tried. The weather is so cold that I must keep in the house. Friday 26. Was a gloomy morning to me. Nothing but the thoughts of death agitated my mind. It oppresses my heart to think that I live upon others and am useless, and that I may die by inches. Sunday, 28. A solitary day to me, neither preaching, reading, writing, nor conversing. Monday, 29. I was employed in revising my journal. I am like Mr. Whitefield, who, being presented with one of his extempore sermons taken in shorthand, could not bear to see his own face. I doubt whether my journals yet remaining will appear until after my death. I could send them to England and get a price for them, but money is not my object. Tuesday, 30. I was employed in explaining my manuscript, but am afraid of intense application. Wednesday, 31. Still engaged in revising my journal. Thursday, February 1. I rode to Owens 7 miles, and heard Brother Watcote on the end of the commandment. I had been kept back so long that I was constrained to spend about 40 minutes in glossing on the epistle to the angel of the church of Ephesus. I then commented on what law Paul must have alluded to in 1 Timothy 1:9. Monday, 5. I took 4 grains of tartar emetic and had a large bitter return. Tuesday, 6. My fever was very light last night. I received a most loving letter from the Charleston Conference. There is great peace and good prospects there. I hope to be able to move next week. I have well considered my journal. It is inelegant, yet it conveys much information of the state of religion and country. It is well suited to common readers. The wise need it not. I have a desire that my journals should be published, at least after my death, if not before. I make no doubt but others have labored. But in England, Scotland, and Ireland, and those kingdoms which have been civilized and improved 1,000 years, and which are under such improvements, no ministers could have suffered in those days, and in those countries, as in America, the most ancient parts of which have not been settled 200 years, some parts not 40, others not 30, 20, nor 10, and some not 5 years. I have frequently skimmed along the frontiers, for 400 and 500 miles, from Kentucky to Greenbrier, on the very edge of the wilderness, and thence along Tiger's Valley to Clarksburg on the Ohio. These places, if not the haunts of savage men, yet abound with wild beasts. I am only known by name to many of our people, and some of our local preachers, and unless the people were all together, they could not tell what I have had to cope with. I make no doubt the Methodists are, and will be, a numerous and wealthy people, and their preachers who follow us will not know our struggles but by comparing the present improved state of the country with what it was in our days, as exhibited in my journal and other records of that day. Wednesday, 7. Rain and snow. I am a poor prisoner. Thursday, 8. We made a visit to Matthew Myrick's and returned. Friday, 9. It is very cold weather. I was glad to keep close occupied in reviewing my journal and writing a few letters. This is a sickly time. Sabbath, 11. I did not preach. I cannot attend these meeting houses. They are only calculated for summer, or good health. I have hopes of being useful once more. My mind at times is under strong temptations. I cannot bear confinement. Mrs. hath told some persons that she is convinced, by my means, that slavery is sinful. I would say, if so, move heaven with your prayers, and earth with your counsels and solicitations, and never rest till slavery is expelled from the plantation. Monday, 12. I had appointed to meet the trustees of Ebenezer Academy, at Brother Holb's, on the north side of the Meharon. After some conversation, They willingly agreed to address the conference in behalf of Ebenezer Academy for an annual subscription, to make provision for a man at about £100 a year, who shall keep an English school under our rules, with the worship and the Word of God. Tuesday, 13. I wrote to Brother Pelham's. Here I was at home. I spent my time with the women and children, in winding cotton and hearing them read. My soul was much blessed. Thursday, 15. The weather is cool and changeable. By letters from the north, I find that the book interest is upon a good footing, the fund interest well secured, and great peace reigns amongst the preachers. Friday, 16. There fell a heavy snow from 6 to 9 and 12 inches deep. I had to keep house. I had but little to say but what would call for weeping, lamentations, and woe. I was a little recreated by hearing Betsy and Nancy Pelham read Doddridge's sermons to young people. Saturday and Sabbath, 17-18. Clear but cold, and much snow. When I get sick and dispirited, I think, was I not a bishop, and required by duty, and necessity, and conscience, to do the best I can, I would rather go into some line of business to get my own living, and not lounge about. I feel for those who have had to groan out a wretched life dependent on others, as Petticord, Gill, Tunnell, and others whose names I do not now recollect. But their names are written in the book of life, and their souls are in the glory of God. I reflected with pain that we had never reprinted in America the life, labors, travels, and sufferings of that great man of God, David Brainerd, of gracious memory. It would be a book well fitted for our poor, painful, and faithful missionaries. None but God and themselves know what they suffer, the minutes of which for 1 week might fill a volume written by an ingenious pen and feeling heart. The last week I spent in some pain of mind, patience, and prayer. It being meeting day at my lodgings, I gave an exhortation to the congregation, having 3 subjects in view. First, the excellency of the religion of Jesus. Secondly, the way to come at the knowledge of the hearts of men and women, namely, by their actions. Thirdly, to put no confidence in frames and feelings, whilst people are living in wilful sin, or the neglect of plain, known duty. End of section 37. Recording by Brian Keenan.